What's up guys, I'm Riley with XKGLOW, and today we will be installing our XKmax LED motorcycle accent light kit to this 2023 Harley-Davidson Road Glide. This XKmax kit is powered by our advanced addressable RGBW technology, giving you a full spectrum of bright colors and a dedicated pure white light, as well as all of our XKmax features, the seamless chasing patterns, customizable themes, and integration into your turn signals and brake light to keep you seen at all times. This kit features a unique low-profile strip and compact motopod specifically designed for motorcycles, ensuring a perfect fit and allowing for versatile, hassle-free installation. Available in 4 kit sizes: Mini, Standard, Advanced, and Pro, tailored to suit both your bike and your budget. Whether you're aiming for a subtle engine glow or a full body lighting setup, this is the perfect option for your build. Let's take a look at what comes in the box. You will get your instructions for the kit, a powerful 2-channel controller and remote key fob, the switch to connect that controller to the battery. You will get a bundle of motopods and 10-inch and 16-inch flexible LED strips, all of the extension wires, a couple Y splitters, and of course, zip ties, wire clips, and some end caps for any loose ends. As you scale up in kit size, you get more lighting power, from 6 motopods in the mini kit to 12 pods and 6 16-inch strips in the Pro kit. To install this kit, you will need a few tools. You will need alcohol and a rag to clean all the surfaces you will be sticking the lights to, some scissors or side cutters to cut all the zip ties, and a 10mm socket to attach the controller to the battery. Now that we know what comes in the box and what tools we need, let's go ahead and jump into the install. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove some of these parts that are commonly removed for a service, because we will not be sticking lights to those. We don't wanna mess with having to unplug them or any of the wires getting pinched, so all of the lights will be stuck to the actual frame of the bike. On this bike, we're gonna be removing the saddlebags, the side covers, and the seat. That way we have access to where we will stick the lights and run all the wiring. Don't forget, if they have lights, be sure to unplug them before you go ripping it off. So now that we've got the bike stripped down, the first thing we're gonna do is figure out where to put the controller. This is gonna be connected to the battery, so we'll put it somewhere under the seat. Typically, there's enough room to slide it around the battery or by this back fender. Obviously, this bike has got a ton of upgrades, so we're gonna have to find somewhere to put it under the seat. But the reason that's so important is this whole entire light kit is going to start at the controller. So there are 2 outputs on the controller, and each set of lights is gonna be ran in a series from the back of the bike to the front of the bike. So we've got channel A and B. We will split these from the left side of the bike being channel A and the right side being channel B. And once you've kind of got that general direction figured out, I'm gonna walk you through the entire layout of the kit just to kind of help you figure out where wires are going. So everything will start at the controller, and then we will run back to the back fender, and we'll put a pod under there. And then from there, we'll start working our way to the front of the bike. So we'll have a pod on the back fender, a strip under the saddlebag, and then we'll jump to a Y splitter, which we will get into here in a few. But then the lights will go underneath the bike and come up to the gas tank and down to the front wheel. That's just a quick brush view of that. But once we figured out where our controller is going, we will start running the left side of the bike. So I will start at the controller, and we'll run a wire back to the back pod on the back fender. And now, before I start running this wire, guys, a quick note. There are a ton of hot parts, moving parts on a motorcycle, so it is extremely important when you're running extension wires or any of the wiring that you're keeping it away from anything hot. It's not going to be pinched anywhere or caught on any moving parts. So zip ties will be your friend. You cannot use too many zip ties on these kits. Just make sure what you're zip tying to is not moving or getting hot. Also, when you're running these wires, it's super easy if you can find any wiring that's already on the bike, or for instance, this bike has an air kit, so we can actually just zip tie all of our wiring to all of the hoses for the air suspension. Now we'll take our first pod, and before we stick it, we're gonna run the wire up to the extension wire. That way we know we have plenty of wire. Then we will stick the pod on the back fender. We'll connect that to the extension wire and start running some zip ties on there to get rid of all of the loose wiring. Before we go sticking any lights on the bike, we want to be sure to hit that surface with some alcohol and a rag to make sure it is super clean and allow the lights to stick perfect. Before we stick this pod on the back fender, it's easier to plug in the extension wire or the light that's coming after the pod before you stick it. So in this case, it's gonna be the 16-inch flexible strip going under the saddlebag. So I will go ahead and start running this wire down, and we'll plug in the pod before we stick it on the fender. So before I tie up the wiring in between the strip and the pod, I'm gonna go ahead and stick the strip. That way if there's any excess wiring, we can make sure it's zip tied up and out of the way. So before we stick the strip, we will always make sure to clean the surface that it's going on. It's going to be going on this support bar here for the saddlebag. So the reason we're putting it on here and not the saddlebag itself is that way we will be able to remove the saddlebags on and off without having to unplug the wires and worry about the strip. So we really just want to center this, and we will angle it slightly towards the back wheel just because the saddlebag does hug the outside of this bar. So once we get it about centered up, peel the backing off the strip. And we will center it as best as we can. Again, we'll angle it slightly towards the back wheel. That way it does not interfere with the saddlebag. And guys, especially on these motorcycles, we always think that 3M is great, but it's not always enough. So anywhere that you can put a zip tie, we highly recommend that you zip tie it. So I'll add a few on this strip, and then we'll tidy up the wiring going to the pod. Once we've got this strip installed, we are going to connect the Y splitter. Basically, what this does is it allows us to run two different series of lights on the bike, but it'll act as one series of lights in the app, making sure that our chase is going to flow from front to back on both the bottom and the top of the bike together. So how we're gonna do that is we will connect the Y splitter to this strip, and then we will branch off and we will run a strip below the bike and a pod up here towards the top of the bike. I'm gonna start on the bottom of the bike, so I will plug my splitter into here, and then I'll go ahead and mount the strip underneath the bike and run that wiring back towards the Y splitter. Before we stick this strip under the bike, it's an important note that you don't want this at the lowest part of this frame coming on the bottom of the bike, because if we scrape the bike, we will be ripping these strips off. So what we'll do is we'll actually put it up underneath here, almost angled across the bike. That way it's not at the lowest point and it'll be nice and secure up in the bike. We would typically connect a 10-inch strip to the floorboards, but with these being aftermarket, there's a little less room to hide them. So we're gonna go ahead and throw a pod in there. So from the strip underneath, we will go ahead and connect this light, run our wiring, and we'll stick the pod under the floorboard. Now that I've got the lights plugged into the bottom of the bike, I'm going to go ahead and route that wire up to the Y splitter and get that connected. And once that is connected, we will start running this upper half We will be sticking a pod right here, but before we stick that pod, we're going to want to plug in the next light, which is going to be a strip going under the gas tank. So I will go ahead and get that plugged into the pod. And now I'm ready to clean the surface and stick the pod. I'm gonna go ahead and just let this strip hang loose for now, and I'm gonna start routing the wire for the pod back to the Y splitter. Now that we've got the wire ran from that pod, we'll go ahead and connect it to the other side of the Y splitter. And since all of those lights are stuck going to this, I'm gonna go ahead and tidy up all of this wiring, making sure everything's nice and secure with zip ties. Since we've got this pod stuck, now we can go ahead and stick the strip under the gas tank. I went ahead and routed this wire up through the frame here, plugged her back into the pod. So now I will clean the bottom of the gas tank and we will start getting that stuck. So now that we've got the strip stuck to the bottom of the gas tank, we're going to put a pod behind the horn. This being an aftermarket horn, we're gonna have to get a little creative on where we put it without having that big cover to stick it on. But we're gonna run a pod there, and then we will plug in the next light, which will be another pod going up in this direction. So we will plug a wire into the pod and start routing that down and then back up. Now that we've got our pod installed behind the horn, we're gonna move to our last two pods on this series. One is gonna go up here and behind the fairing, and the other one will go down on the front fender to light up the wheel. Before I stick this behind the fairing, it's kind of hard to get my hands back there, so a quick tip, remember we will plug in the pod after, and when we do that, we'll go ahead and zip tie these wires together, and it just makes it easier for when I'm up in there and cleaning up all of the wiring since it's hard to reach. So I will run a zip tie around these two wires and just try to get them overlapping. Like so. So I'm gonna put one more on there and then I will start sticking this pod up behind the fairing. Once we get the pod behind the fairing buttoned up, we're going to take this pod and actually just go ahead and stick it on the inside of the fender, and then we will tidy up the wiring so we can bundle any access, if we have it, up towards the top of the bike. This wire is going to follow right along these brake lines. Make sure you add plenty of zip ties here because we do not want any loose wiring on the front of the bike. So we will stick this on the fender and we'll just route that wiring right up the brake line. After we've got the wire completely tied to the brake line, we are almost finished up with this side. We will go do one more check over, check all of the wiring, make sure nothing's around any moving parts, make sure it's not getting pinched or near anything hot. We're going to zip tie any loose wires we see. We'll snip all of the extras off the zip ties, and then we'll be ready to move over to the other side. Coming over to the other side of the bike, we're actually gonna do the exact same process that we did on the left side. So we're going to start with a pod on the back fender, work our way to the strip under the saddlebag. We will Y split and run our underglow and then run up along the top side of the bike and down to the front wheel. Really the only difference is going to be, instead of putting a pod behind the horn, we're going to be putting it behind the air cleaner, but still a very similar process. So let's go ahead and get this side of the bike installed. So now that we've got both sides of the bike completely installed, we're ready to go ahead and connect the controller to the battery and get all these fired up. Like I said earlier, where we mount the controller can really vary on what bike you're working on. And for this one, since it had so many accessories on it, we actually ended up having to rip the battery out and putting it way back here, back by the back fender. But that's okay, because we've ran the switch where you're going to be able to access it with your hand. That way you can completely turn the system on and off. So how we did that is we have the gap right here in the frame. So we will go ahead and I will stick this switch here. That way it's super easy to reach. And we will be able to turn the controller on and off with it. So put it right there, right next to the pod, kind of hidden, but still accessible to hit it. Once we've got our switch stuck, it's already plugged into the controller. So now I'm ready to put the positive and negative terminals on the battery. Now that I've got the battery connected, I will come over here, we will power the switch on, make sure all the lights will turn on, and then we will go ahead and pair to the controller. So the default will go to white, so I'll just go around making sure everything is on and powered up. And it looks like it is, so now we're gonna go ahead and connect our phone to the battery. So to do that, you're going to download the XKmax app, and we will get it opened up. And when you open it up, you will click the hamburger menu in the top right corner. You will see there's a new device to pair to. So I will click on that, hold it near the controller. And as you can see, we will be paired to the controller. We will click understand to the legal notice that pops up. And now would be a good time to go ahead and check all of these zones, make sure all the lights are still lit up, and then we're gonna get it to do a chasing pattern. That way we can make sure all of our lights are nice and lined up on each side of the bike. So I will go pick the Night Rider chasing theme, take a step back and make sure everything looks nice and even across the whole bike. Now that we've verified all of the lights are working and we've connected to the controller with our phone, we are going to start getting this bike put back together. But before we do that, we are going to triple check all of the wiring one last time, and then we're gonna locate the XKmax caps in your kit, and we're gonna use these cap ends or these plug ends on any of the pods that do not have a light or an extension wire plugging into the output of them. So the pods on the floorboards and then those last pods on the front wheel are going to need these caps just to keep any dust, dirt, debris out of those and out of the lights. And now it's time to get the bike put back together. And finally, when we've got the bike completely put back together, we're gonna turn on the lights one last time and just make sure that everything is working properly before we take the bike out on the road. And if you're interested in learning how to turn these lights into your brake lights, be sure to click this video as we will walk you through the step-by-step process of hooking the sensor wires from the controller into the vehicle. And guys, be sure to stay tuned to our channel and follow us across all of our social media platforms, as we'll be coming out with a lot more content about our XKmax series lighting in the near future. So we will see you in the next video.